Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is GGF bringing you episode 24, the Kobe Bean Bryant episode, RIP Kobe, of Let's Play Wasteland 2 Director's Cut. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing great out there. Having a good time in this thing called life. And I hope you're ready to check out some more of the wastes with me. This is the good stuff if you're into CRPGs and stuff like that. This game is very underrated, I feel. Very cool stuff. And we're in the Ranger Citadel, but I think we've pretty much explored it all. Let's double check. We can't get into the brig. Come over here. We don't really have any money, right, to do anything here. We have 192, and that's not going to get us much of anything. Steel plate armor. We could get a goat hide armor for, well, nobody needs a goat hide armor, actually. So we good. Maybe more ammo. Let's see, Charlize has 42 shots, Angela has 31. Depends where we're going. I was going to go to the Rail Nomads camp and deliver this letter, which is really important, apparently. So yeah, I guess that's where we're going to head today. Up to the Rail Nomads camp. Let's check the journal first, though, and see what's what. I think we're okay on ammo. We should be okay. Let's check the logbook. We've got all sorts of new stuff. Find a way to reach DeMonta, set up the second radio repeater. We have to go to the prison for that. Fix Sue's mistake. We didn't do that. Look for the rest of Ace's logbook. Help Dr. Tideman find a cure for cancer. That's going to be interesting. Find painkillers to help Dr. Tideman make it through the day. Gather raw materials to help restock the Ranger's ammo supply. Deliver a letter to Robert Bowling's sister Katie in the Rail Nomads camp. Sounded like a matter of life and death. Dog crap, cat crap, cow crap, bat crap. Don't matter, the Rangers need some ammonium nitrate ASAP. We have points to level up as well. 6 skill points, 8 perk points. Hit the deck, minus 25% damage from explosions. Healthy, hardened, plus 1 base armor, taunt. I think this is what we were saving up for. Minus 3% chance to hit for enemies within leadership range. Tormentor, 10% damage, plus 10% damage to enemies in cover. Minus 15% damage taken from critical hits. Nothing really too crazy there. Charlize has 4 points. And 6 points here. Brittany has 2. Saul has 2. Angela has 3. Rose has 2. 10% chance of finding bonus ammo when looting party-wide. Should probably hold off on that. Order. Full metal jacket. We want that, but it takes 9 points. Saul has 5 points. Brittany Charles has 4. Charlize has 4, and I have 8. Another point of weaponsmithing, submachine guns. Can get a handgun backup weapon. Maybe a bladed weapon. Everything else is pretty much covered. Unknown skill there. Yeah, everything else is pretty much covered, so I think we'll get a point of His ass takes just 2 points. Leadership takes 4. Everything else takes 4. 15% chance to hit against enemies who are in cover. That's cool. Whack-a-mole. We'll probably get leadership adds 8% chance to hit, reduces chance followers ignore orders in combat by 20%. Not sure I want to spend his yet. What about here? She's got computer science too. That's Rose's thing. So we should stop putting... Oh. No, she has computer science too. Assault rifle. Animal whisper. We haven't found great uses for that yet, but I'm sure they're coming. Sniper rifle. Alarm disarming. She kind of overrides with Rose. If we could have a respec option, I would respec her. 2 points for Brittany. Surgeon. Let's just save those points. 2 points for Saul. +1 base damage with brawling. Oh, I think we have to go demolitions, honestly. Safe cracking takes 2 points. Maybe safe cracking rather than demo. Let's go safe cracking. Saul. Angela has 3 points. Pawner. Plus 20% more scrap from selling junk items. Yeah, I think we'll go with a point of barter. And let's check the perks. Pawner, she can get it with 4 points. You've learned to offload all that useless junk on unsuspecting marks or honest merchants. Yeah, I think we'll get Pawner. It's a nice, definitely a nice bonus for 4 points only. Rose has 4 perk points, skills 2 points. She can't really get anything with 2, but she's, you know, pretty well decked out. Saul's good. Brittany. Charlize. About another 2 points of sniper rifles. There we go. Okay, nothing there. And then for me is 6 points. Bladed weapons are a possibility. Don't really care for heavy weapons too much. Well, I do, but I don't. I'm not in a hurry to learn it, let's say. Bladed weapons, or we can just get another point of submachine guns. Bong bong, save 2 points. -1 action point cost to reload with submachine guns. Not really crazy about that. Versus bladed weapons, self-defense, +1 armor at close range with bladed weapons. It would give me a backup option to use, like, skills you've assigned. No, I don't remember what I assigned. If we go to, like, Saul here and get the makeshift cleaver, can attack diagonally. Only takes 3 AP to use, rather than a handgun backup. 13 to 16 damage. 6% critical chance. That's all going to go up. 3 armor penetration. You know what? I might go ahead and get bladed weapons. Why not? I'm always going to be in melee for submachine guns anyway. Bong bong. Let's see what it looks like. 13 to 16. 68% chance. 24% crit chance. That's crazy. Well, it's like a Buster Sword. I love it. 38 semi-automatic. Honestly, Brittany maybe. Let's just sell it. We can pawn it off right here. Sell the 38 semi-auto. Yeah. Bong bong. Oh, I was going to read the lore today. There's a bunch of lore we picked up. The 234. Let's go ahead and read, maybe read some of the lore before heading out on adventure. Only 11 minutes in. Memories of my time in the Rangers, Part 1 and 2. Let's auto sort. Oh, and there's Part 3 as well. By General Snake Vargas. Introduction. Ranger C-Mac has asked me to write down my memories of how I joined the Rangers and what it was like fighting our battle against the robots of base Cochise. Can't say I see the point. He's already got all the details written down in his official history. Why do I need to rehash a story I've already told 100 times before? I have to admit, though, there are some things history books don't tell you. The little things in between the big things. That's where real life happens, not in a dang history book. Alright, C-Mac, you talked me into it. Here goes. Chapter 1, Hometown Hero. This may surprise some folks, I suppose, but not all us Rangers are the descendants of the original Rangers. In fact, there's less and less hereditary Rangers every year. For instance, I grew up in a little town not too far south of the old Ranger Center. It was a mostly Hispanic community, all farmers and sheep herders, and so isolated from the rest of the wastes that I didn't hear English spoken until I was 10. I was a golden boy back home, not for the gun skills I've since grown famous for. I didn't have those yet, but for my talents as a medic, which I learned at my mother's knee, she being the only doctor in town. I learned a heck of a lot more about patching up bullet wounds once I joined the Rangers, but even back then I knew enough meatball surgery that I was always picked to come along on scavenging and hunting trips in case of accident or attack. For a long time, our little town was a pretty peaceful little place, but then one day a band of raiders found us and decided that what was ours should be theirs. They surrounded us and demanded we give them every last bit of our salvage and our livestock, and our children. When we refused, they came in, guns blazing. Our people were cut down like tall grass, and I was planning to go die bravely with all the rest. My mother, however, had other plans and chewed me out royally, saying that staying and dying was selfish heroism when we could save lives by rescuing others and leaving. So we gathered as many kids as we could find and escaped with them and a few other adults. It felt strange to be running, like cowardice, but if we'd stayed and fought, we would have died and those kids would have become slaves, so I did my best not to feel guilty. But the guilt hit hard once we got those kids to the next town and my mother died. Turned out she'd been hiding a gunshot wound the whole time. I think I must have gone crazy with rage after that. The problem was I didn't know who I was mad at. My mother for hiding the wound, myself for not seeing that she was hurt, the kids we'd rescued for slowing us down, or the raiders who'd shot us in the first place. In the end, I decided the raiders would be the easiest to take revenge on, so I set out with some of the other survivors to hunt them down. It was while me and old Joe Thomas, Pops, and Susie were tracking those raiders that I acquired my old nickname, Snake. I could tell you how, but I won't. A man's gotta have some secrets, particularly when the story isn't as interesting as the name. Anyway, we didn't stay together very long after we'd found the raiders and blown them all to Kingdom Come. There just hadn't been much of anything keeping us together except our fixation on revenge, and when that went away, we each went our separate ways. Me, I drifted for a while, thinking I'd do one thing, then thinking I'd do another, but it gnawed at me that my revenge on those raiders hadn't given me satisfaction. My town was still gone, my mother was still dead, and I was still lost, and I decided in my youthful naivety that maybe what I needed to do was kill more raiders, and the best way I knew to do that was to become a desert ranger. Interesting stuff so far. Part 2. Chapter 2, From Stranger to Ranger. I walked up to Ranger Center not knowing what to expect. It wasn't exactly an inviting-looking place, which figures, what with it being a prison and all, but the Rangers were friendly enough, and I soon learned it wasn't too hard to become a Desert Ranger. If you could shoot, understand orders, and follow them, that was good enough, and if you could patch up wounds or drive a jeep or work a radio, even better. You got your Circle Star badge and your hat right there on the spot, no questions asked, and if you later turned out to be an untrustworthy son of a gun who was using the Star and the Desert Ranger name for his own personal gain, why, they just shot you and that was that. Pretty much the same system we have today, now that I come to think of it. Anyway, like I said, they welcomed me with open arms, partly because I was a good medic and a good shot, and partly because they were pretty short-handed at the time. That hasn't changed much either, has it? I guess it never does. Since the end of the world, the bad guys have always outnumbered the good, and there's never a lack of wrongs for us to right. Training was mostly learning how to shoot people rather than how to deal with conflicts in a peaceful manner. We didn't even learn a code of ethics to abide by. Hopefully that's changed now. Don't get me wrong, a bullet is often still the best answer to a problem, but it should always be the last as well. I met my future squad mates pretty early in the training program, each with a sillier name than the last: Angela Death, Hellraiser, and Thrasher. Honestly, we didn't get along that well at first. I found Angela's brash manner and constant joking grating. Thrasher just seemed like an angry, ornery bull, and Hellraiser didn't seem to have any self-control at all, in combat or out. I don't know if we would have stuck together at all if not for Sergeant Dalton, who recognized early on how well our skills meshed together. My tactics and marksmanship combined with Thrasher's toughness and brute strength, Angela's uncanny ability to smash past locks as well as hold her own in any fight, and Hellraiser's berserker combat style and desert survival skills made us into an unstoppable fighting unit, and it was that recognition that we fit together so well that I think eventually made us friends as well as squad mates. I thank Dalton to this day for forcing us to stay together through the rough patches at the beginning. I wish he'd lived long enough to see what we've made of ourselves now. Sadly, he died on patrol, leading another band of new recruits just before I made captain. Dang shame. For a while, the four of us just lived the daily grind of the Desert Ranger, scouting and foraging missions, patrolling our territory, and checking in on the towns and farms under our protection. But then, way before we were ready, something serious came along. It started as just another patrol, making the rounds to High Pool and Egg Center, but what followed was the making of us. Though there were several times along the way that it could have been the breaking of us too. But like I said, I'm not telling that story. You can read about that in C-Mac's history book. Instead, I'll tell you about what happened after. And then part 3, chapter 3, walking back and going forward. So, have you gone away and read C-Mac's history of how me, Angela Death, Hellraiser, Thrasher, and good old Ace killed all the robots, blew up base Cochise, and saved the world? Pretty exciting, huh? Good ending, too. Neat, tidy, wraps everything up in a bow. The bad guy's dead, we all live, beers and happy times all around. Well, like I promised you, I'm going to tell you the bits that didn't make it into the history, like how the trek back to Ranger Center nearly killed us, and how it led to us moving to our new headquarters. We didn't really want to walk back to HQ, not after getting the crap kicked out of us by robots for a day and a half. Unfortunately, the chopper wasn't in any kind of shape to fly us back, so we really didn't have any choice. We started marching. It wasn't easy. There were still plenty of killer robots wandering around and plenty of other baddies who'd come snooping in the aftermath, hoping to pick up some fresh salvage. Tired as we were, we had to fight through them all. Vax was a lifesaver here, taking point in every fight and soaking up a hailstorm of bullets. Then once we got within a stone's throw of Vegas and he saw we were safe, it turned around and walked into the desert and we never saw him again. Dang shame, only robot I ever liked. In Vegas, we rested and restocked at Farin Brigo's place. He welcomed us with open arms, and why shouldn't he have? Now that we'd taken care of his cyborg problem for him, the last real obstacle for him crowning himself king of Vegas was gone. We'd smoothed the road for him, and he was grateful. At the same time, even as we rested and celebrated with him and his men, it was clear that we would eventually come into conflict, what us being on opposite sides of the law and all. Still, he wished us well and we left for Needles, and I think he meant it. Everywhere on the road we saw signs of the Wasteland's continuing struggle with the robots and mutants that had brought us north. People think the Rangers blew up base Cochise and that was that, but 100 anonymous struggles followed. Traveling merchants fighting refugee mutants from Darwin Village, the police and Needles fighting cyborgs, even raiders fought these threats. It took years and years, but added together, all these minor skirmishes made the Wastes the relatively safe place they are today. A few days on, we passed by Ranger Citadel and had a look in to see what was worth looting. I don't remember which one of us first came up with the idea of taking it over. Maybe Ace, but who knows? It seems like a pretty obvious idea looking back at it. It was secure, self-sustaining, and well-stocked, and a dang sight more comfortable than the old prison. What more could a ranger want? Our return home was not exactly the beer and sausages affair you might have expected. I won't deny our destruction of the base Cochise was key winning the robot war, but as I said before, it was far from the only battle in that war, nor were the robots the only threat that we were facing at the time. There were also Finster's mutant nightmares, some of which had actually managed to breach the walls of Ranger Center, leaving many of our brave brothers and sisters dead, so it was a pretty sober homecoming. It also seemed to me like proof that the Rangers urgently needed to move to a more secure location, and so I went to General Sergru and told him of Ace's idea to move into the Guardian Citadel. Unfortunately, though he was a good man and a solid, dependable leader, he was not exactly a visionary, and though I did my best to point out all the advantages of the plan, he refused, saying the times were too unstable and a hasty move was too risky. Angela, Ace, and I kicked up a ruckus like the young hotheads we were, but the old man wouldn't budge, and so did the Rangers. Finally, however, time and age did what youth and impatience could not, and General Sergru retired. In the meantime, I'd been climbing the ranks and taking on more and more responsibility, and when he finally stepped down, I stepped in to take his place. We treated the old man with the respect he was due, but didn't wait too long before organizing a move to what is now Ranger Citadel, and I don't think anyone can question the decision now that we're here. We are now more secure, better positioned, and stronger than we ever were before. Okay, C-Mac, I'm done. It might have been boring, there might have not been enough fighting, but that's what real life is like. It might not be interesting, but there's always more to a story than just they won and then moved to a new home. Well, that was pretty cool, actually. I didn't find it boring. Intelligence report part 1 and 2. We'll check those, and then we'll leave these for another time. The history of the Rangers. Investigation into the occurrence of robots in the Las Vegas sewers by Ranger Ann Elk. Brief. This investigation was ordered by General Vargas on February 12, 2099, to determine the source of the robots discovered in the sewers under Las Vegas and to calculate the likelihood of such a threat rising there again. Background. In 2087, General Vargas, then Ranger Vargas, and his fellow Rangers entered the sewers under Las Vegas, gaining access by following Farin Brago's instructions to go through the Temple of the Servants of the Mushroom Clouds, using a sonic key to open the door to the sewers. Considering how difficult it was to get into the sewers, it was reasonable to expect to find the place abandoned. Instead, the Rangers encountered heavy resistance from several forms of robots. The place was crawling with them from wall to wall, as the General put it. But perhaps more striking than the sheer amount of synthetics was their unique, often puzzling nature. Semi-intelligent cyborgs wielding firearms were the most normal, but others were much stranger. From scouring the sewers for remains and interviewing the surviving Rangers and eyewitnesses, we've discerned numerous distinct types, names generally used by the Rangers themselves. Clawman or Clawer, close combat cyborgs attacking with their bare hands. Centron, centaurs made of a melt of metal and flesh that were capable of galloping at high speeds. Wow. Cyclone, cybernetic wolves, recognizable by their wolf-like howls that, when sustained, decayed into static hissing. Tronosaurus, gigantic metallic reptile. Boa constrictor, a cybernetic giant snake. Wow. Note, as no remains of this creature could be found and the Rangers only encountered them in the darkness, their exact nature could not be ascertained. Tronodile, mechanical crocodiles. Query, what purpose could mechanical aquatic life forms have in the desert? Tazzle, a nightmare of metal, vaguely scorpion-like but really not like any creature we know, capable of shooting metal spines from its tail. Cybertrike, cybernetic melds of man-like forms and motorcycles, known for the roar of their engine. Hexborg, squat six-armed cyborgs, could use multiple weapons at the same time, surprisingly intelligent and adaptive. Query, if we recovered and restored, could turn out to be quite handy. Wow, that is pretty awesome. I had no idea all that existed. Part 2. Another mystery of the Vegas sewers was why these cyborgs all seemed to be unique to that location. They clearly, unmistakably, originated in base Cochise, but most differed from the heavy-duty cyborgs that were found other places, such as the Slicer Dicer, the Scorpitron, the Threshing Crawler, Steel Reaver, or Silver Strangler. In general, the characteristics of the sewer cyborgs were thus: they were less capable in combat and or less functional overall. They utilized organic materials in their construction. They emulated extant life forms such as humans, crocodiles, and boa constrictors, even though many of those life forms are not native to the desert region and have not been since the war. For this investigation, we interviewed numerous Vegas citizens, including some vagrants who had moved into the now abandoned sewers, which were more easily accessible than previously assumed. An open manhole cover in an abandoned part of Vegas led directly to the sewers. General Vargas's instructions were to include any theory, no matter how wild. So from combining our personal findings and observations in the sewers and eyewitness reports from bystanders and rangers, we can offer the following possibilities. Invasion force. The most logical theory is that these robots were an invasion force prepping to take over Vegas. But if so, the sewers made an odd staging area, and they had taken no aggressive actions towards Vegas before the Rangers' arrival other than dismantling Max. Martian invasion force. As told to our researchers by Johnny Flatboots, one of the sewer's more colorful inhabitants, the cyborgs were a preliminary invasion force and were not really cyborgs. Instead, they were actually Martian serpioids disguised as cyborgs. Researching the remains of cyborgs cast doubt on this theory. Dumping grounds. The strange and largely inferior nature of the sewer's cyborgs could point to them being early prototypes developed by the base Cochise AI, with the sewers being used as a dumping ground for unsatisfactory experiments. That's what I was kind of thinking. A buffer force. It is entirely feasible based on the robot force's location that they were meant as an emergency buffer against threats from the east, such as the Desert Rangers or perhaps the mutants being spawned by Erwin Finster. Programming error 1. A partial decryption of the robot's programming revealed a command to clean out all the crap in Vegas. The ambiguous wording of this command was possibly misinterpreted. Programming error 2. All the robots entered through a single open manhole, but none exited through it. It is therefore possible that all the robots in the sewer could be traced back to faulty pathfinding and one missing manhole cover. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Because of the limited sources of information available to us, we cannot discount any of these theories as a possibility, except perhaps the Martian invasion one. Our conclusions, therefore, are that C's invasion force, dumping grounds, and buffer force theories all have a roughly equal likelihood of being accurate, but we cannot discount the possibility of programming errors in the relatively primitive cyborgs, leading to theories 5 and 6. This leaves the final conclusion of this investigation regrettably inconclusive. Oh, that was super interesting. History of the Desert Rangers. Okay, this is pretty... Read every lore entry in the game. We didn't do that yet, but this is pretty short. By Ranger CMAC. What comes after the end? The story of the Desert Rangers begins at what many would have called the end of all human history, after the nuclear blasts changed the face of the world forever and left human civilization with scars that would never heal. But humanity's resilience is its defining trait, and it should surprise no one that pockets of survivors survived the nuclear holocaust. I say pockets speculatively, and some would call me a fool for doing so, for though rumors persist of mutants being cured and turned into humans in Florida, these are obvious fairy tales, and in the century since the nuclear war, we here in the Arizona wastes have heard no credible reports of others surviving outside our lonely stretch of desert land. It is therefore fair to assume we're the only ones left. Part 2. Who are we? The Desert Rangers started as an Army Corps of Engineers battalion who were deep in the Arizona deserts constructing roads and bridges on that fateful day when the bombs fell. Their isolation saved their lives but could do nothing for their frightened, broken hearts. One could only imagine the horror they felt as they listened to reports of their home cities and states being obliterated one after the other on their radios. The engineers did not know how or why the nuclear war happened, no more than we do today, but their supplies, military training, and knowledge of the region gave them advantages over their fellow survivors during the apocalypse and the chaotic years that would follow. They commandeered a nearby federal prison, being welcomed as saviors by the few remaining prison guards, and in a show of mercy that might have perhaps been better if tempered by wisdom, the Rangers freed the prisoners into the desert. Why? Perhaps they felt the apocalypse had already killed enough people. Perhaps they simply didn't want to waste ammo it would have taken to execute them. In any case, the prisoners survived, which led to a volatile mix of survivors all living together in the Wasteland, isolated farming communities, scientists from secretive research facilities, citizens of small towns just looking to get by. But opposite them were not just the rapidly mutating monsters of the desert, but equally monstrous humans, cultists, and cannibals. Many of these threats were from the original prison population, as well as formerly law-abiding citizens who saw the end of the world as an excuse to abandon all of civilization's constraints. Faced with such villains, the Army engineers could have hidden in the prison and lived only for their own survival, but they did not. Hearing the cries for help coming from distant radios, they invited many to join them behind their strong walls. They aided other, more established towns, helping them build walls and protect their homes, training them in the arts of defense and war, and helping them develop into strong, stable communities. Part 3, Holding Back the Tide. Though the Desert Rangers never gained the numbers to patrol the wastes in their entirety, it is thanks to their efforts in the century that followed that many communities in the Wasteland flourished. They helped protect the community of High Pool until it could rebuild the pre-war defenses that now make it the most well-protected source of water in the wastes. The Rangers helped the rail nomads repair their trains and expand their rail lines, allowing them to establish a thriving trading and transportation network. They also helped the residents of the agricultural center go from a tiny farming community to a food research facility that has the potential to lead the wasteland into a greener, healthier future. But despite these various successes, there was always a sense that the Rangers were doing little more than holding back the tide, and that, were they to relax for but a moment, the raiders and madmen who lived on the fringes of Ranger territory would flood in and drown the young civilization before it had time to grow and stand on its own 2 feet. And then, almost a full century after the end of the war, in 2087, a new threat rose that threatened this tenuous equilibrium more than any danger the Desert Rangers had faced before. Part 4, Finster and Cochise. Armed with this information, the Rangers marched off to end the cyborg menace, but it wasn't going to be as easy as walking through Base Cochise's front door. To fight the androids, the Rangers were going to need more and better equipment. To that end, they explored another old facility known as the Sleeper Base, where an automated training program taught them how to fly helicopters. From there, they traveled to Darwin Village, yet another ancient military facility. To their horror, they found another major threat to the wastes here, as the former director of the facility, an insane cyborg by the name of Erwin John Finster, was creating dangerous mutated creatures that he hoped would inherit the planet once the cyborgs and a dangerous plague he developed had wiped out all the humans. Unable to reason with Finster, the Rangers decided to end this threat before it truly started, and destroyed him in the base. Soon after, the Rangers learned that the keys that would allow them to enter Base Cochise were held by a dangerous xenophobic sect known as the Guardians of the Old Order, who were obsessed with preserving technology and keeping it out of the hands of the common people. When the Guardians responded to the Rangers' request for the keys with unnecessary force, the Rangers assaulted their fortress, the Guardian Citadel, a massive facility built into the side of a mountain. We now call the place Ranger Citadel. In the end, Hellraiser, Angela Death, Thrasher, and Snake Vargas battled their way to the Guardian's inner sanctum, uncovering a cache of power armor and a functional attack helicopter, which they flew to Base Cochise, wiping out the android patrols sent to destroy them, and landing on the roof. Inside the base, they found a malevolent computer known as the Base Cochise AI, mass-producing the robot Scourge. The Rangers tricked the AI into creating an administrative robot they named Vax, and with Vax's help, they dismantled the robot-making machinery. But knowing that the base would eventually repair itself, that they had only stopped the robot horde temporarily, they plunged into the heart of Base Cochise and fought through a gauntlet of mechanical madness to start a chain reaction of explosions that finally wiped the base off the map. Part 5? Oh wait, we're missing Part 4. Part 6, From Guardian Citadel to Ranger Citadel. In the 15 years since, the Desert Rangers have moved their headquarters from the old prison facilities that had served them for a century to the larger and more secure Guardian Citadel. Initially, there was some thought given to keeping the prison staffed and returning to its original purpose, but this would have required manpower that the Rangers needed to keep patrolling the wastes for remnants of base Cochise's cyborg army and Finster's monstrosities. For while those threats were averted, the mark they left on the Wasteland has not entirely faded. And so, with their greatest danger past, the Rangers are now a strong and well-respected force in Arizona, fully capable of fulfilling their promise to their fellow survivors of the apocalypse, that they will be ever vigilant defenders of the wastes and strive with hearts, minds, and strength of arms to bring about a new and better era of human civilization. Afterward, I undertook this task of writing an accurate history of the Desert Rangers due to an incurable fascination with history. While much historical writing survived the apocalypse, it pains me to think how much human accomplishment from that point onwards has not been written down and could easily be forgotten. That being said, though I did my best, I perhaps underestimated the difficulty inherent in historical writing, and dare not claim every word in this book is true, but only that it's the most accurate history of the Wasteland I could construct. Ranger C-Mac. Why are we missing part 4, though? I wonder. Oh, is someone else carrying it, maybe? She's got the monocle. Maybe I should give her the Animal Whisperer +1. I don't see part 4 anywhere. Logbook page. Synthpar, okay, she doesn't have it. Synthpar, Rose's notebook, she doesn't have it. I wonder who has part 4. Quick save, and we'll see how long we've been playing. Wow, episode's almost over. Unreal. Maybe if we come back in the library? So next time, guys, we're going to head back out to the wastes. We're going to head to Rail Nomads camp to get this letter delivered, because obviously it's very important. Oh, part 4 might be in this toaster? That's the only place I could think it could be. Oh, wait, there's something here. Fix it, +1 toaster repair skill. Nice, we missed that. I think Charlize Vonaham has toaster repair. Right, yep, nice. So we can learn that. This book has tons of useful advice on fixing anything. The cheaper on radio repair has been bookmarked. The chapter on radio repair has been bookmarked. There's a chapter on toaster repair you find fascinating. I think he's on self. Charlize. Bong bong. Can't beat that. +1. There's something here. You've learned all you can from this statue. I don't know why part 4 would be in a toaster, but 28% chance to fix it. I don't want to permanently mess it up. We'll stand back. Come on, work. Oh, it worked! And there's toast. Huh, it's not a junk item. Perfectly golden brown and crunchy, add peanut butter and you're in heaven. Toast. In the toaster. Obviously makes sense. I don't know where part 4 is. It's weird. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode as we took a look at the lore and stuff like that, very interesting stuff in my opinion. Awesome game. Trying to soak in every little bit of it we can here because it's just that good. Next time, though, we'll get into more of the shooty bits and action bits as we head to as we head to wait, what was that? Hey, the new recruits head back out in the wastes and we didn't actually Matthew Rogers, we didn't actually set out yet. to deliver the letter. Hey Rangers, we're going to do that next time. Head to Rail Nomads Camp just to deliver the letter, and we'll figure out what we do after that from there. So thank you guys for joining me. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's a big help. Also, if you want to be another big help, you can become a member here on my channel or on patreon.com/fluent. Just a friendly reminder for anybody that may be new and interested in doing that. No worries though. Hope to see you guys next time. Do come back. We're going to get out in the Wasteland. We're going to explore a bit, check out the Rail Nomads Camp, which is way up north, and stuff like that. So lots of fun to be had yet. See you guys then. Until then, be well, live well, stay well. Much love, peace, and joy. Don't go anywhere, guys. Lots of fun to be had here. Ciao for now.